What do you even need thermal paste for? This grey goo gets everywhere, you always don't know how much you're supposed to put on, and it's just another thing you have to worry about, you have to buy before your PC actually starts functioning correctly. What's the point of it? Well, despite being so inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, it is actually an essential thing if you want your PC to run correctly. So let's go with exactly why. So thermal paste, thermal grease, thermal compound kit, whatever you want to call it, its purpose is to transfer heat between the integrated heat spreader, or the IHS, or basically that shiny thing on top of your CPU, to your actual CPU cooler. And this thing carries a pretty important job, even if it doesn't seem like it, because it's really hard to get proper contact between the IHS and your CPU cooler. Why? Well, because no matter how much pressure you apply, it's always very hard to make them fully touch together. But that's not even the worst problem. Another big issue is the fact that there are super tiny imperfections on both the top of the IHS and the bottom of your CPU cooler. Some of them you can see with your bare eye, for example laser engravings telling you what on earth kind of CPU this even is, or you can also see the little grooves in between the heat pipes on the CPU cooler, which the thermal paste has covered in, but there's also tons of tiny imperfections and height differences which you just can't see. So that's why one thing a lot of people do to increase thermal conductivity is to lap the IHS, or basically rub it up against a piece of metal to make the whole surface of it completely smooth, thus making sure that there are no little differences in height or whatever, to ensure it makes the best possible contact with your CPU cooler. And without thermal paste, sure, your PC would still run, but the actual thermal conductivity between your CPU and your cooler would probably be terrible. And that is why we put thermal paste on our CPUs, to help speed up that process of transferring heat away from the IHS into the cooler, and then using fans or whatever else we carried away from there. And it's not just a CPU we do it on, pretty much anything that generates enough heat that it requires some kind of cooling solution does use thermal paste. So if you really wanted to, you could tear up your graphics card and reapply thermal paste to the GPU underneath, but how can you even tell if thermal paste is doing its job right? How can we tell if we could, for example, use some better thermal paste? Well, naturally the main indicator is thermal performance, but that's not a really great way of judging how good thermal paste is, because there's so many other variables at play. The CPU you use, the cooler you use, the case, and the overall cooling capability of the case. All these things determine how hot your CPU can get. The thermal conductivity of thermal paste like this is measured with watts per meter Kelvin, which honestly would take a video on its own to explain what exactly that means, but basically it's just a measure of how much heat can get dissipated through it at any one time. So the more watts per meter Kelvin a thermal paste solution has, the better it is. And many thermal paste producers do use that to advertise exactly how thermally conductive the thermal paste is. But still, there's so many thermal pastes out on the market, how do you know which one's truly the best and will give you the coolest CPU? Well, good thing you asked, because soon I will have a video where I will be taking some of the most popular thermal pastes out there, putting them against each other to see which one is truly the best. So definitely subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. Trust me, it's going to be an amazing video. You don't want to miss it. But sadly, videos like these are a real rarity on this channel because, well, they cost a lot. And let's be honest, AdSense doesn't pay a lot, especially for a channel that's this small. Thankfully, there are other ways you can support my channel to allow me to make awesome and expensive videos like that, like say Patreon, because even $1 a month goes a long way in helping out my channel, and it allows me to make way better videos and also videos on way more interesting topics, so I highly recommend you check it out. It truly does go a long way. I'd also love to have my Patreons Gavin Burns, Ryan, LKB, Naomi Sushi, Tiffany Jacobs, and Wolfie. Thank you all so much. Your support is truly appreciated and it really does help. And also, hey, we have Amazon Associates links, gonna post them down in the video description below as well, and if you buy anything from them, we get to the money, you don't pay anything extra. So I'm gonna have a link to some good thermal paste if you need them for your PC. Down there's also our Discord if you want to talk to me or us at Discord or whatever else really, and that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever's next. Goodbye everyone. Goodbye.